It's international break. We need something to talk about. Up step the wonderful subscribers of the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel for the latest Q&A. Loads of good questions over there on that screen for me to answer. I'm going to try and answer every single one of them without repeating myself. If you want to get involved in the Q&As, there's a post goes out. It's every second week we do them. It goes down the community tab. So make sure you are subscribed and you have rung the bell, and that will appear in your feed and you can ask a question. Like Scott 1994 has, ever since you started covering the EFL Championship on YouTube, who would your five-a-side best championship team be? So I want a goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, winger, striker. You see, now all of you would be thinking which players you're going to pick. I'm just immediately thinking about the comments because he asked specifically ever since I started covering the EFL Championship, though these players have to pretty much be from 2017 onwards. So if I don't include one from before then, well, that is why. Best goalkeeper, we've got to go Trafford from last year. Didn't concede any goals, did we? Best defender, I'll go for a centre-back, wins as a five-a-side team. I'll go Willy Bolly from Wolves. Best midfielder. Do you know what? Let's do a fun one. Ollie Norwood for that run of promotions. I think he got 3 in a row, didn't he, for Brighton and Fulham and Sheffield United. He's played loads of games. Still doing it for Stockport and the EFL as well. There's a shout out there. Best winger. Let's say winger. It's Pablo Hernandez, Emi Buendia or Jack Grealish. Let's go for the purposes of five-a-side. It's got to be Grealish, hasn't it? Indoor five-a-side, keep hold of the ball. Yeah, beautifully. Maybe I'm taking this question a bit literally. Best striker, Mitrovic, obviously scored 43 or whatever it was in one season. Get your five-a-side teams down there in the comments. S. Morris, HD. A bit different. Do you believe in any football-related conspiracy theories? For example, bias from referees on pitch or in VAR, cup draws being fixed. Anything along those lines, that infamous Chelsea-Barcelona game a while back springs to mind. Love the channel, man. Thanks, boss. I've got one. I'm not a big conspiracy guy because, unfortunately, the problem with conspiracy theories is that the good ones are ruined by all the terrible ones. And what you get is, unfortunately, you get people that believe in every conspiracy theory. Then you get people that believe in no conspiracy theories. And like everything, really, the extremes tend to be the wrong positions to take. And it's hard to kind of wade through and find out what's actually worth looking at. My conspiracy theory is that VAR and refereeing by video actually began in 2006 because surely, definitely, allegedly, maybe Zinedine Zidane was red carded in the World Cup final by video. I don't believe any of the officials exactly saw that. And I think there was enough of a pause and he was on comms and the assistant was on comms as well. I think the first VAR red card in football happened way before VAR began. And it was for Zinedine Zidane in the 2006 World Cup final for headbutting Marco Materazzi. Swan Zach has asked too, so I'll take the top one here. With the sagas involving Alexander Isak and Johan Wieser, do you think that the club should have more power than the player themselves because both had refused to play for their respective clubs? And if so, what would you put into place to prevent the player involved to have so much power over the club himself? It's not ideal, this, is it? And I don't think anybody has really liked the way that players have, or a small minority of players have been handling themselves this transfer window. It feels like it's all of a sudden got like this. We normally have the odd player, you know, where there's an issue with a player wanting to leave a club or wanting to go somewhere else or whatever it is, contract running down. Every player's situation is unique. Should the club have more power than the player themselves? Well, yes. The institution that is paying the individual once the individual has signed the contract. You see, we're getting into the murky things of the freedom of the individual, but unfortunately, so the freedom of the individual is here, and that freedom is they can do what they need to get very good at football, and then they have the choice to sign and go wherever they want and agree to whatever terms of a contract that they agree to. So the individual does get freedom up until the point where they sign it away, don't they? You can't as a player or in any situation in life complain about your individual freedom and rights when you've signed it away. I know people would argue in certain more important examples where it's not necessarily just involving which football club a football player plays for, that people are forced into signing their rights away. That's a different social discussion. In football, look, these people are mega talented, mega sought after, super assets with agents helping them out from very, very young ages. So you can see my kind of view is really with the clubs and, ultimately with the fans, because I'm not a football player. I suppose I'm a pundit of sorts here on YouTube, if that's worth anything. But no, I do believe that the clubs should have more power than the players, and the players do have power before they sign the contract in terms of whatever negotiation leverage they've managed to get them. If you're a great player, you'll get a better contract. If you've worked yourself into a good leveraging position, then you can utilize that. If you're not the greatest player in the world or not in the greatest position leverage wise, maybe the club will get you on a good contract. That's just business, isn't it? Capitalism, that's another longer and further windy discussion. If so, what would you put in place to prevent the player involved to have so much power? Well, the difficulty is that the clubs don't seem to have a great deal of protection. You've got the PFA, who will immediately, go to the side of the player. And the argument they'll always make is that if a player is not required by a club, they'll kick them to the curb, fairly quickly, won't they? And we do get rather childish things done, don't we? You can go and train with the reserves. You don't, you have to cross over and you don't even get to see the first team or whatever, and you're kind of ostracized in that regard. So I get that people will run the argument the other way around. But again, I go back to the fact that if you sign, not even in football, it's like, so I'm a musician, and there's often situations where you'll have agreed to do a gig with someone, and then somebody else offers you another gig on the same day for more money. And the general accepted rule of thumb for most people is that whoever booked you first, they've got you. And even if you can get double money elsewhere, then, you do the gig that you're booked on. That was and there's often no contracts on that. That's literally a handshake agreement, and you could easily get out of it. No one's going to sue you for one gig. But this is where negotiation comes in, because then, if I've got a very good relationship with person A who I'm booked with, and I say to them, oh, look, man, there's a really good payer over there. If I can sort you somebody else to do that, and this is enough notice and all of that, and we're still cool, and I'm going to phone you up and talk to you about it like a professional, then, you can often sort a solution. Whereas the worst thing possible is where communication breaks down and, well, probably the worst thing you can do is just send an email. I'm not doing your show anymore. I'm doing the other one. Sort it out. That's your problem now. And I guess that's what players, we're talking about Isak and Visa. It's very interesting that one of them is leaving Club A and the other one's arriving at Club A. It's the same club. So I suppose Newcastle have got the worst of this, and then kind of capitalised on it a little bit. My own club, Ipswich Town, Amari Hutchinson, maybe it got a little bit, or let's say handled a little bit better. Maybe it didn't quite go as far as the sort of ESAC and Visa things did. But hey, I guess the further up the ladder you go, the more money that is involved, the higher likelihood of, people are going to go the extra mile to get done what they can get done. So when the communication breaks down, you're pretty screwed. And I'm sure the players in these situations will argue, you don't know the whole story, you don't know what's happened, you weren't there, and all of that is true. But in that instance, that surely the contract is king and your honour is king. And of course, I'm addressing all of this in a perfect world. If everybody behaved impeccably, this is what would happen. But we don't live in a perfect world. Far from it, do we? I'm still trying to get my head around what you could actually do to prevent this happening. Whether whether there can be some kind of penalty to the player, that's not necessarily enforced by clubs, but maybe by the Premier League. But then you'd get a real burden of proof thing of, oh, I'm not available to play. I'm injured, and then it'd get really murky. Well, prove that you're not injured, or prove that you're not mentally right, or whatever the reason's been given. So it's so murky, and the whole thing is based on both parties essentially doing the right thing and coming to the table, and you're just a bit screwed if one or other party does not do that. So the long and the short answer of it is, I wish it was different, but we're dealing with humans, we're dealing with ambition, we're dealing with imperfect things. People aren't perfect. Football clubs aren't perfect. Every situation is unique, and this will happen. And I'm sure if we had really draconian contracts that said, you cannot do this, that, and the other, and if you do, you're then, they can invoke, I don't know, could like a club invoke that you're basically put on gardening leave and the PFA has to pick up the tab. So, if the player decides he's not going to play, he can't play for anybody. And the PFA has to contribute an agreed amount to his salary, and he just sits out the season. And, what a waste of time that would be. So it does strike me the players always win in the end. Is that right? Am I right to say that? Players always get what they want in the end. It's weird because you say there's no game without the players, and then people say there's no game without the fans. And then people say, well, there's no club to play for without the clubs. But let's be honest, it needs everything working together, which is why you get this situation, because nobody has the ultimate power. It's just who's prepared to go the furthest in the game of kind of brinksmanship, isn't it? It's an interesting topic. And I suppose the fact that I've talked about it for a little while and you can't really get to a solution other than, can people just behave themselves in an honourable way, means that it's going to happen again in the future. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on that particular topic. Let's move on. Dave, hello Ben. Other than having your wonderful daughter and partner, and with the success of the channel, are there any goals you'd like to achieve, be it on your channel, music, or personal life? I mean, it's a good question, Dave, because you framed it in the right way, where I think you reach a certain point in life where you're pretty content, and having children really does make a big difference in terms of your meaning. You're trying to find your meaning in your life, and that just gives it to you, and you almost say, okay, if this was taken away from me, this YouTube channel, this music thing, if I don't know, God forbid something happened to me health wise and that was taken away from me, if I still had my daughter and my missus and that stability and that love and that family unit, would I be okay? Yeah, I'd probably be okay. I'd hope I'd be okay. But specifically with the channel, I don't know what the goals are really. I guess just to keep doing it and to keep growing. And, you know, people obsess about certain numbers of views, certain amounts of income, certain numbers of subscribers. But really, I think the goal for the channel is, can I still be doing it in 3 years, 5 years' time, and it still have been growing all the way? And I suppose, to put a really philosophical goal on it, can we attract more people and more respect to the EFL Championship? I know we cover Premier League bits with the teams that get promoted, and I collaborate with Connor and Matt on that each week. But really, the channel has been about the Championship, hasn't it? So, yeah, that would be a kind of philosophical goals. Music-wise, obviously, I'm involved with That's So 90s, the theatre show. And yeah, that's a bit of a goal. I'd like to see, I mean, simple joke on that. I'd like to see it break even, and then I'd like to see it make some money. But let's be honest, if you told a 12-year-old, 13-year-old Ben starting to play the piano that you could go into theatres and perform songs you love to people and they would enjoy it, you'd do that for free all day long, wouldn't you? So I think sometimes you forget how lucky you are. So, yeah. And personal-wise, yeah, just to stay healthy and to stay happy and to be a good father, good partner, all of that stuff. Willie Tooth Hill. Are the parachute team's shaky starts just the regular in-window new manager in 3 cases teething problems? Or do you think they might continue to struggle and a non-parachute team will genuinely finish in the top 2? If so, who is most likely? And which parachute team is most likely to get their act together? Cheers for the great content during the window early season. This is a great question, isn't it? It's a great topic that we've been going round and round on in the EFL Championship. First of all, I think what colours this topic is a lot of people hope this will happen. In the same way, a lot of people hope like at least 1 and fingers crossed 2 of Burnley and Leeds and Sunderland can stay up, because we got a problem if this keeps happening, this boring chasms in English football. I think a lot of people want it to happen, and they are rooting against the parachute teams. And yeah, I'll be completely blindly honest, I've done it myself. I've thought, oh, come on. You got the most money, the best players, all the advantages that brings. Can we at least have a bit of an underdog winner? And it's not just the British love for the underdog. It's that we want it to be competitive. We want it to be fun. You know, we want it to be unpredictable. And it's all about the dream, isn't it? Take someone like Preston. It's all about the dream that if Preston get the right managerial hire, who coaches really well, they make the right signings with whatever budget they've got, they get a good start to the season, that they can have the lightning in a bottle. Well, it shouldn't have to be a lightning in a bottle, should it? That's what I'm saying. That's my whole point. If they get all their things online, that they should be able to get promoted from this division. And it shouldn't be, no, if Preston get everything online, they might finish 12th and that'll be a good season. Or they might finish 8th and outside the playoffs, or whatever the number is. So specifically this season, and Wilby asks, is it just the August stuff? It may be just the August stuff. And we may be sat here in November with Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, Sheffield United all been cracking out 2 points per game for 10, 12 games. All up in the top 6 and, you know, shaping up for it to be 4 of them in the top 6 when the season finishes. And let's be honest, that's the kind of expectation for parachute teams, isn't it? That your top 6 should contain all 4 of those sides. Is it just the normal team? But I don't know. It feels a little bit different this season, doesn't it? I think the disruption caused by Wrexham and Birmingham is a factor, isn't it? When you look at the transfer window, the top 10 highest fees in the transfer window, 4 of them were Ipswich, 4 of them were Southampton. Obviously, Leicester have got their own issues, which does parlay into this conversation as well. And then the other 2 were Wrexham and Birmingham. So, hey, maybe that moves things along. And then you're looking at, well, to start the season, you're looking at Coventry and you're looking at Middlesbrough. You're looking at Stoke. They're the teams that are up there. I suggested Norwich at the start of the season had done a lot, and that could work out. And then you're kind of into the realms of would anybody else. I mean, Bristol City got in there last year and finished 6th, didn't they? You are into the realms of anyone else outside of those teams. You mentioned Wrexham and Birmingham, obviously I include them. Would that be a surprise or a big surprise? It starts to then be a big surprise, doesn't it? So, I don't know. It does feel like there's something in the air this season, that it is going to be different. That maybe the non-parachute teams are kind of like, no, we feel we can do it. And if they feel they can beat these teams and take points off them, then that makes all the difference. And it does need the other 20 teams to really have a crack at it and really get some results to pull the league together, rather than having 4 teams just sort of dominating right up at the top. Obviously, we did get Ipswich breaking it in 23-24, didn't we? Sunderland won through in the end, didn't they? Beat the parachute team in Sheffield United in the playoff final. So specifically, I mean, surely Ipswich and Southampton should come good, shouldn't they? Surely, if you look at the squads, I suppose Will Still is a rookie manager at the level. That could slow Southampton down. Don't know. Got a good squad. Signed well. Azaz and Fellows look good. Ipswich, I mean, the danger for Ipswich, there's 2 dangers. One is that there's just been way too much change. And it's going to take more than a season to knit the team together. The other is that how much of Kieran McKenna's double promotion run was intangibles, was momentum, good feeling, winning run, just keeping going and going and going. And is that toothpaste out of the tube, and can they get it back? Obviously, Leicester could get a points deduction, could get a big points deduction. We'll see. And that could certainly keep them out of the top 2. And Sheffield United have just started so badly that you do get to the point where if it's a 90-point plus standard as well to reach the top 2, I mean, if Sheffield United were to lose to Ipswich in the next game, which is a big game, isn't it? It'd be 5 games, 0 points. I mean, we can do the maths really quickly. I will whip out my phone and let's call it 90 points. And they've got 41 games then to do it. 2.19 points per game for 41 games. No room for error. For error. No margin for error. So it definitely could happen. And who's most likely? Well, if you're following the money, it's Birmingham and Wrexham who could get in there. I would say Birmingham are the more likely of the 2. Wrexham have started a little bit slower. And I don't know, I just see Birmingham in terms of the pattern of play as well being a little step ahead of Wrexham so far. But I like Wrexham's transfer window. And then out of the others, Middlesbrough, Stoke, Norwich. Shall we just deploy the cheat code? So I'm going to put Stoke to one side. Look, if Stoke were in the top 10, they'd be happy with that, wouldn't they? After years of being in 16th or whatever it is. Let's deploy the cheat codes. Can Middlesbrough get Hackney out 40 times this season? Can Norwich get Sargent out 40 times this season? Does that give them a better chance than Stoke? And then there's Coventry, who are touching that number, 1.8, 1.9 points per game under Frank Lampard. Can they just keep going? Just keep going. And all of those clubs have got to hope that it's not 90 points that you need. Ipswich managed to do it in that it was made the Ipswich promotion in 23-24 all the more incredible that they scored 96 points to do it, which is absurd, utterly absurd. Let's see if the total comes down around 85. Then, if you're Middlesbrough, Norwich, Coventry, Stoke, Wrexham, Birmingham, those are the teams I keep mentioning. Throw any others in you want in the comments. Maybe any of those could take top two. Be fascinating to watch. And look, if I put my completely biased Ipswich Town fan hat on, I hope it goes with the money and it's the parachute teams, which means Ipswich will be in the top 4 and hopefully in the top 2. If I go with my more reasoned, less selfish YouTuber who loves the division hat, then of course you don't want these advantages to be the only thing that matters in the table. And, for these past couple of seasons, Burnley 100, Leeds 100, Sheffield United 92 on pitch, and obviously Leicester 97, Ipswich 96. Wow. Was it Leeds 90, Southampton 88, 86? Can't remember what Southampton got, but massive totals for all of those teams over the past couple of seasons. Let me know if Wilby is right. Is something brewing? Are we ready for a surprise promotion in the Championship this season? Careful Trout. Do you think that Birmingham have lost their momentum? Absolutely not. No. And I'm actually interested, Careful Trout, as to why you're asking. I don't know what you've seen that would make you think that they'd lost their momentum. I know they lost the game, didn't they, at Leicester this past Friday. But no, I will fully expect Birmingham, even if they don't beat Stoke, they'll come back around. I'm pretty confident in Birmingham, and momentum is important. I know some people get a bit snarky about it because it's an intangible. You can't write down a number for momentum, can you? Or, good feeling, or, winning mentality or whatever. But no, I don't think momentum has been lost. DD Ricky, DD, are you a lad or a football geek? What do you reckon? Look at the bloody state of me. I'm a football geek, aren't I? I tried to be a lad when I was younger, but you can't be what you're not, can you? And I'm just a football geek. I look into things deeply. I think about things deeply. I worry about things. I contemplate things a lot. Any part of life. God, we've just started the school run with Enid the last 2 days. Me and Shaylee, I'm writing down a blooming schedule and all the things. And like Shaylee asked me how the school run went this morning. She texted me and I'm like, yeah, okay. I have some feedback and some ideas of how to optimize this better. And I'm like, man, you are mental, aren't you? But that's what can I do? What can I do? So I am a football geek. If you want to be a lad, all good. Each to their own. There by the grace of God go I. But I am a proud football geek. Marlon, have you ever been to see a football match as a neutral? Or would you go? Where do you think would be the best place to go football at any level? I'm not sure. I know Marlon's been covering the channel or watching the channel last few years since Saints have been down. So he probably wasn't watching. I've been to tons of football matches as a neutral. I mean, I suppose very recently. I mean, here's a question as to neutrality, but obviously I was at the playoff final between Sunderland and Sheffield United, so I would class myself a neutral. I would say, doing this gig here, I watch every football match as a neutral, or I try to at least. And this is where we get into subconscious bias and this argument that people make that you actually, that neutrality doesn't exist and there is no such thing as no bias in any situation in life. And I do actually agree with that you can't be completely unbiased about anything on the basis that you have experiences that have to colour your opinion. And when you try and offset them, that's actual bias at process because you're deliberately offsetting against something to avoid it. Some people accuse me of being too hard on Ipswich because I'm trying to offset my implicit bias. I don't know. We can never win or lose that argument, can we? I'm sure people have done studies on it, but not on me personally, but studies on subconscious bias and offsetting it. So I do agree to a certain extent. I've gone very deep on this immediately. That you can't be neutral about anything in life because you come at it from some angle. Look, am I more neutral than some idiot screaming at me in the comments that we was robbed and the referee did this? Yes, I'm more neutral than that person. There's nothing wrong with that person, by the way. They're enjoying football through a highly emotional and tribal lens. Great. Good luck. I try and be neutral on everything. So, yeah, I would argue that even when I go and watch an Ipswich, go and watch my Ipswich v Birmingham blog, Birmingham v Ipswich. I would argue I went to that game as a neutral, but I would also accept that I cannot prove, and I don't necessarily even agree with the premise that you can be perfectly neutral. But hey, what is perfection anyway? Certainly not. Doesn't look like this, does it? UFTB. All right, Benjamin, what's your favourite tipple and the signing you wished you got? He's one of our own. Hayden Hackney, he's one of our own. He knows the signing I wish I'd got. Wouldn't it have been great if Ipswich should have got Hayden Hackney? Hey, so he's answered my question for me there. What's my favourite tipple? I don't drink anymore. I did a little bit on this, so I won't go off on a big monologue about it. But what I will say is when I was drinking, oh man, I've liked every favourite tipple. So when I've never really been a spirits guy. I'll have to say that. My mate Abby, she can drink like whiskey straight. She's so funny. She like goes and then downs it because she knows it's going to burn her throat, but she loves it. Shout out Abby. I might even send her this video so she knows she got shout out. But when I was into wine, I think a lot of people do this. You start on white, don't you? Because it's nice and cool and refreshing and all that. And then you get into red. And I always remember once going to my favourite restaurant. Shout out to the great Steve Barringer, the greatest chef here in this area, and a big Luton fan as well. And he has like some specialist come in and pair all the meals up, all the courses up with different wine. This sounds incredibly upper middle class, doesn't it? But believe me, we went for my birthday and me and Chef are just standing there chatting about football during all the courses. So, yeah, we bring the level down to our working class roots, put it that way. But yeah, and then I get into beer in the summer as well. So, in the words of David Brent, different drinks for different needs. But yeah, not for me for the last couple of years. Long boy. Do you consider tactical matchups in your match week predictions? What a great question. I try to. I really, really try to. In the Championship, I would say I definitely do. However, and I can see is that Doncaster badge on there? However, when I do League One with Matt SB, let's be completely honest about this. I cannot be as dialed in to League One as I can be to the Championship. So, a lot more of League One is vibes and feel and form and things of that nature rather than tactical matchups. I don't want to come on here and say, yes, I am tactically aware of, 20 teams in the Premier League, 24 and 24 in Championship, and how many is that in total? 24, 48... 68 teams. Nah, I'm not tactically aware of 68 teams. Try and be tactically aware of all 24 in the Championship. Probably 5 to 10 of the Premier League and as many of League One as I can. But let's be honest, probably fewer. But I try and listen to fans. I try and listen to what Matt SB says. Try and read the comments. Fans will tell me. But I'd love to be. But I can't. If you listen to Ali and George on Not the Top 20, they're pretty good at actually being tactically aware of all. How many teams do they do? 24. Is it 24, 24 and 24? 72 of them. So, but I remember asking Ali about this. it's the compounding of doing it for years that allows you to do that. If for example, you wanted right now to click your fingers and become technically aware of 72 EFL teams, I don't think you could do it. Not in one season. I think it'd take you 2 or 3 seasons to be able to do it and learn all the managers and all their histories and all of that stuff. Swester Lad, best and worst food you've had at a stadium. I mean, worst food is just all of them, isn't it? It's dreadful. This is me after talking about Steve Barringer's food over here in Bedfordshire. But so best food, 2 things come to mind, and this again will sound horribly middle class. Sorry, football fans. I had a coffee and a chocolate brownie at Brentford once at Griffin Park, not at G-Tech, from an independent stand. So it's not to do with the club. Although they put it in behind the main stand there. Unbelievable. And the best coffee I've ever had at football was at Watford. There's like this artisan. If you go in is it the Graham Taylor? If you go into Graham Taylor at Watford, you'll know where I mean. It's weird. You kind of come down a level and you're kind of in the middle of the 2 tiers. There was a coffee stand in there. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Brilliant. Well done, Watford. Nat. I hope you're well, sir. Could you pick your all-time Championship 11? I can see Nat's asked another question. I've already done the 5-a-side thing. Going to move to the other question. Hi, Ben. Fun question. 5 movies you could watch over and over again and food of choice to watch with. Right, food of choice. I'm having a Thai takeaway, and there's a brilliant one in Bedford that will come out to Wixham's here where I live. So God, the 5 movies. Oh, Big Lebowski, which is Coen Brothers, isn't it? Jeff Bridges. Edward Scissorhands, which is Tim Burton. I need something epic. 3rd Lord of the Rings, just, no, actually, 1st Lord of the Rings to, get the story going. Because then I'd have to watch the other 2 anyway. What's that? That's 3. Napoleon Dynamite and Team America. Team America, World Police. Just a couple of ones that I remember when, I was that age where you first get a DVD player and you get those DVDs and just watch them over and over again. Still quoting them now, embarrassingly. Andrew Shaw, are you into the console? If so, which one? Mate, I'm so sorry, I am not. My missus has she plays some like adventure thing where she's wandering around building stuff up on her PC up in the living room there. I did, for a while, have a Nintendo Wii, and I've got to say, it was bloody brilliant. This is when I had my flat in Ipswich and time on my hands and all of that good stuff before I was a father. And Super Mario Galaxy was my thing. So if it was a console, it'd be Nintendo, and I love the Mario games. But man, come on. Self-employed, YouTube, musician on the side, father. There is no time to be playing video games. Meow, what is your favourite cheese? Do you know what? I'm not a big cheese guy. So it won't surprise you to know my favourite cheese is actually halloumi, because when you kind of chop a thing off and then you fry it, it's kind of got like a bit of a more meaty texture. I love the salty taste. So halloumi for the win. Rami is awesome. Do you think Stoke will come top half or bottom half? That's the best question. Completely binary. I can answer that one quickly and give an opinion. Put my neck on the line. Stoke will finish top half this season for the first time in forever. Footy predictions. If you couldn't support Ipswich, who would you support? Well, the problem with that is you'd take your dad's team, wouldn't you? My dad supports Norwich. Can't be doing that. So if Ipswich folded, well, look, it would have to be Bedford round the corner, Luton or MK Dons. One of those 3. Probably Luton, I would say I'd have to end up supporting if there was no Ipswich. What is your ideal Tesco meal deal? I don't do Tesco meal deals. What we do have is, if I'm out on the road, literally as you come out here, is a little M&S food garage. Do you know what I like? I like their egg pot with spinach in. I like ready salted Walkers and a Pepsi Max. It's a weird old combination. So egg and spinach protein pot, grab bag, red and salty Walkers, Pepsi Max. Gemma, how old were you when you went to your first football match? What teams were playing? Can you remember the score? Yes, yes, and yes. So I think I saw Ipswich play Wolves in 1990 or 1989. So I'd have been 7 or 8, born in 82. It was 0-0, and Steve Bull and Andy Much played up front for Wolves. And God, who would have been playing for Ipswich? I suppose that would have been John Walk, third run at the club. Crikey, David Linnigan, Craig Forrest, Gavin Johnson, Mickey Stockwell, Steve Whitten, Chris Kawamia, Jason Dazelle. Sorry if I've missed any out there. Craig from Blue Monday would be able to tell me the exact 11 and all their stats. Shane, a few questions mixed in one. Did you ever... I'll start again. Shane, a few questions mixed in one. Did you ever feel that a yellow of East Anglia would cross the divide to the blue side of East Anglia? How well do you think Nunez will do? Who got the better of the deal? Well, no, I didn't think a significant player would cross the divide, i.e. one of value that would raise a big fee that had been a good player for Team A and could still be utilised for Team A whilst moving to Team B. I did see Andy Marshall. It's a bit different. A, he's a goalkeeper. B, it was a free transfer. And C, the clubs are in different divisions, I think, weren't they? Were they in different divisions? I think Ipswich possibly took Marshall when they were in the Premier League and Norwich League. I could be wrong about that. East Anglian football fans will no doubt correct me quickly if I am. But no, I do think Nunez is significant for those reasons. Same division. And a player that... And I know people get emotional about it and the tribal community stuff, life meaning kicks in for people. So they want to defend. Fine, whatever. And you'll hear Norwich fans go, I didn't need him anyway, all of that stuff. But no, come on, be honest. He's a good player. He's done well in the Championship before. And would you have rather had him or not have him? You'd have rather had him. And you certainly would have rather had him than he transfers to a rival. And look, I've got Norwich and Ipswich both in the top 6. So forget the local rivalry. It's actually, it's about like Ipswich loaning Ogbene to Sheffield United. It's actually potentially someone you'd expect to be around you in the table. How well do I think Nunez will do? I think it'll be quite good. I think Ipswich need that type of player. They've been crying out for that type of player, especially without Sam Morsey anymore, and with Morsey maybe not the force in the Premier League that he was in League One and the Championship, where he was utterly brilliant, wasn't he? Who got the better of the deal? Do you know what? I think that completely... There's one thing that will tell you that. It's who finishes higher in the Championship table this season. So, if Ipswich finish higher in the table than Norwich, it'll be Ipswich. And even if Nunez doesn't play any games, you can then run the argument that, Ipswich took Nunez from Norwich, so therefore they could have finished higher if they had him. You can make all those arguments. If Norwich finish higher, even if Nunez does really well and, his value goes up, essentially it's about the clubs this season because the contract was running out this season. So it's right about the now, isn't it? So I don't think you can answer, and I will categorically say it, and you can hold me to it, Shane, if Norwich finish higher than Ipswich this season, then they probably got the best of the deal because he could have walked away for free at the end of this season, and it's a moot point what happens afterwards, isn't it? So all about this season. And let me just do my Martin Luther King bit. I just hope it doesn't get too ridiculous because We talk about people going tribal. We talk about people getting emotional. That's the best thing about football, provided it doesn't go too far. So, if in the East Anglian derbies, Norwich fans want to bring banners, inflatable snakes, boo him when he gets a touch, scream and yell at him, try and put him off, great. That's all part of the entertainment. That's all part of the narrative. It's just when it goes too far, and you know what I'm saying about too far. If people are, you know, invading personal space and threatening and, you know, things of that nature on social media, then it's too much. And it's both sides, isn't it? You know, we get people that can't regulate their human instincts when the tribal football stuff comes in. So I hope it doesn't cause a riot. Obviously, Nunez needs to behave himself in the derbies, and people around him need to behave themselves as well. I get a Norwich player at Carrow Road will get the biggest cheer in the history of football if within the first 2 minutes of that game they smash him. And when I say smash him, I mean go in full-blooded, fair tackle with fair contact, you know, take the ball, take the man as collateral. That's all good. We don't want to see anything that's dangerous and endangering the player. That's, you know, we've gone too far then at that point. And by the same token, Nunez is going to get booed. So if Ipswich were to score a goal, he's got a responsibility not to. You have as a player. I know people say, oh, players, they get it all game, and then they're going to give it that, and they're going to give it that, and they're going to give it that, and that, and that, and all of that stuff. But he's just got to not take it too far, because that is going to be on a razor's edge. And the East Anglian derby gets patronised really badly by people who've never been, don't understand it, and haven't got an effing clue. Frankly, that is going to be white hot in those games. And I think because people think, oh, it's sleepy East Anglia farming country or whatever, that, you know, or just because it's not working class northeast or northwest or, you know, London, what have you, that it's, you know, it's inferior. Shut up, you know, get on with you. Honestly, I think it's better for it, because one county, one team, one county, one team. Paths don't cross except by Marcelino Nunez. So it'll be absolutely fascinating to see the impact it has on the derbies and etc. Great question, Shane. Deadpool, best food I've had at a football ground. How much and where and how long ago? I've kind of already answered that, Deadpool. But yeah, bloody expensive probably. What would my coffee would cost me at Watford? £4. Although you blooming drive up the M1 and stop at Watford Gap, and it's £4 for your Americano or whatever, isn't it? Connor, if there was one player you could see playing live from any era, who would it be and why? It would be Kevin Beattie, because he is acknowledged by people I respect, namely David Diamond of the Blue Monday podcast, as Ipswich Town's greatest ever player. And I've always said to him, Dave, but he's a centre-back. How can a centre-back be the greatest player? Surely it's a winger, a midfielder. It's Paul Mariner. It's Arnold Muren, Franz Tyson, Kieran Dyer, Marcus Stewart, whatever your era is. And he just said one thing. He said, Ben, you just had to see him play, mate. You just had to see him play. So, yeah, Kevin Beattie, who, rest in peace, is sadly no longer with us. Ken, who's going down to League One? I think both Sheffields and Hull. Wow. Is that the current bottom three? Crikey. I don't think that'll be the final bottom three at all. And God, imagine Sheffield United went down. That'd be an absolute shocker. I know we can't just say, oh, Sheffield United have got parachute payments, therefore they won't go down. Because the perfectly reasonable argument that will be immediately made is, Luton had parachute payments last season and they went down. So, yeah, I would accept that. Although I was at pains all the way through last season to try and make clear to people the difference, excuse me, in what Luton did, where Luton have come from, who Luton are as a club, and certain yo-yo teams. It's kind of apples and oranges comparison. Sorry, I said at the bottom three. It's not the bottom three at all. Hull are nowhere near the bottom three. Oxford are in the bottom three. Well, look, Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday are far more likely to stay in the bottom three than Sheffield United are. I don't see Derby staying down there. I don't see Ipswich staying down there, which does make then Blackburn, QPR, Hull, Charlton, those next four, more prone. So, yeah, come back to me, Ken, later in the season, and we'll see how we're doing with both Sheffields and Hull. But, yeah, you may be right. I may be crazy, said Billy Joel. Wayne, do you think Man United will bounce straight back up from the Championship next season? What a question. If Manchester United get relegated, they will definitely win the Championship next season. Yes. Gary, are the current PSR as equally fair on all clubs? If you could tweak them in any way, how could you? Problem with PSR is they would work better if the distribution was fairer, wouldn't they? Because it's almost like saying to, right, here's an analogy. You've got two cars. One of them can go, okay, I'll start over. You've got two cars and PSR limits them both to go in 70% of their top speed. The problem you get is if one of the cars' top speed is 150 miles an hour and the other car's top speed is 70 miles an hour, then do the limiting safety rules actually make any difference whatsoever? They probably don't. So I think it's more about the distributions going in, and maybe like how tax works, where there's the more you have, the more you pay. Don't get into a big rant about tax, because some people argue that's not actually true. But in theory, the more you earn, you go up tax thresholds, don't you? Maybe that should be the case with PSR, where you're kind of protected. I mean, surely, at least up until the end of the TV money, everyone should have limitations, and then you could add a bit more on at a higher tax levy for every, and I mean, it would be every 100 million, which is an absurd number. So maybe PSR could be ratcheted that way. And yeah, that then acknowledges that if you're Man United and your revenue is 5 times higher than Sunderland, Burnley and Leeds, then you get to use that. Fine. That seems fair to me. But what isn't fair is saying that, right, Sunderland, Burnley and Leeds revenue is lower because they are only, they have to have 1 year or, God, what would it be? Burnley would have 1 year, 2 years Championship, 1 year Premier League. Leeds the same. Sunderland would have 3 years Championship, wouldn't they? So, yeah, that doesn't seem fair to me at all. So, I don't know. Am I onto something with the tax style? What players are you most interested in seeing how they perform this season, Jack? That would be the 2 big high-ticket players who I thought would be sold that haven't, Hayden Hackney and Josh Sargent. And then, I've got to say, from a biased position, Sindre Wage Egeli at Ipswich, the 19-year-old Norwegian wunderkid who's been brought in. So, yeah, those would be the 3, but I'm sure you could name plenty of other. I'm fascinated in so many players, be multiple in every team. Zelda and whatnot. Is there a second team you support, have a big soft spot for outside of Ipswich? No, not really. Obviously, my dad supports Norwich, which is very controversial. So he'll often, if I'm on a drive, I'll often phone my dad up and he'll talk to me about Norwich, and I'll listen and talk to him about Ipswich and all of that good stuff. Soft spots. Really enjoyed covering Sheffield United under Chris Wilder. Really enjoyed covering Leeds under Bielsa. Dare I say, Norwich with Farker and Buendia and Pookie was a really good watch. Enjoying covering Birmingham at the moment. Their fans have been great with me. Enjoyed covering Millwall under Neil Harris. So many. It's all about the stories, isn't it? And look, I've just reeled off a load of teams that got promoted out of the Championship. So I have a soft spot generally for teams that get promoted because their fan bases are very happy people and we share happy times together here on the channel. James, do you have any transfers with Championship clubs in the transfer window? James, I think maybe you've been auto-corrected there, so I'm not sure I understand the question. So if you can send that again, James, because I know you're a regular on here, James Muckle. I'll try and answer next time. Matty, how has your physical and mental health been? How are you and your family doing? Also, do you think that mental health is a serious topic that should be talked about more and more in general? Feels like, especially for men, there's still a stigma about it, with men especially not being able to show emotions properly. Wow. Okay, let's go there. So look, I grew up with a stoic father, wonderful man, caring man, love him to death. But did I ever see him show any emotions when we were growing up? Not really, no, because a man of his generation, he was in the army, and grew up obviously then with people who were in the First and Second World War, weren't they? So I grew up with my male role model figure being a fairly quiet, a family man, looks after his family, but the big mouth, the big opinion and the big emotion came from my mother in my growing up. And as you can imagine, going through the education system as a male, it's mainly, teaching skews female, doesn't it? Particularly in primary school when you're growing up, and reception, for whatever reason, we don't need to discuss that, but education is drawn to women and women are drawn to education. So I think the long-winded point I'm making is that my experience growing up was that I didn't have emotional kind of male role model figures. And again, absolutely no slight on my dad, who's obviously, my hero in my lifetime. But it's just not who he was, what his experience was in terms of growing up. So I struggled a bit at school for that reason. And I actually remember getting in trouble at school. There's a maths teacher called Mrs. Clapp. How can you be called Mrs. Clapp and not have issues as a school teacher? You'd change your name, surely, wouldn't you? Deary me. But I remember Mrs. Clapp. I got in trouble with her. And it was actually put to my mother that all the teachers I was having bother with were female. And did I have an issue there with, kind of female authority figures? And there's probably some truth in that if, my dad was the supportive, strong, quiet type, and it was my mum who was yelling at me the whole time, maybe I wanted to rebel against the female teachers, and then I don't think it helps massively. It's difficult. It's difficult being a bloke growing up. It really, really is. You're kind of petrified of these amazing creatures that are women, but all you want is the affirmation and attention of women. And God, going through high school, if you're 5'8" and not a handsome jock or charismatic or whatever, if you think I've got any charisma now, I certainly didn't have any at school. It's certainly been developed. So yeah, that made it difficult, I guess. And I think a lot of males would say, look, it's hard. And I know there's been a lot of blowback about this. What was the thing called on Netflix? I can't think what it's called. The Stephen Graham thing. I watched all of it. It's filmed in one shot. I can't tell you what it's called. But anyway, the kid, they're talking about males going through school, and they talk about this 80-20 rule, where the idea is, and it makes perfect sense, that the top 20% of men get the pick of 80% of women. Therefore, the other way round, that 80% of men are then trying to fight for the other 20%. Do you know what I'm saying? It kind of skews it. And of course, that makes perfect sense. And we're obviously evolved. And if you believe that, that humans have evolved in terms of reproduction and, the furthering of the human race, let's just say, then, yeah, obviously it's, who's best suited to, reproduce with, and, the men fight it out amongst themselves to, procreate with the top female, and on we go for millions and billions of years. Here we go. We're going into, what is this? Science, evolutionary science, isn't it? I guess, but that does make it hard to be a bloke. And then, do you know what? I think the worst possible thing that happened to me is having had no attention from the opposite sex. You then join bands and it's all completely phony. Then you do get attention from the opposite sex and it's completely fake, isn't it? They're not interested in you. They're interested in the character that you portray when you are performing. So, yeah, I've had an interesting journey as a bloke. And I don't think I've really matured until I met Shaylee, I guess. I still think I was a bit of a knob, even up until that point. Do you know the best thing for my mental health as a man was having a child? Honestly, and I know I'm sounding. Some people will disagree with me. If you come from the progressive view, you're going to think what I'm saying is very old-fashioned. Humans here to procreate and all of that jazz, and the family unit and fatherhood being good for me. I can only tell you what my experience has been, and that having a child has really, as a man, given me meaning. It's not a caveman go hunt food, bring it back to family, but just the love side and the family unit. You just feel absolute sense of meaning. And I think with your mental health, I think a lot of it is you're just searching for your place in the world. You're searching for meaning. So my mental health is pretty good. It's pretty good. We all have our moments, don't we? Everybody out there, even if you're hyper successful on the one hand or you're hyper satisfied on the other hand. And do you know what? Something I've thought is that people like my parents, we all kind of optimize. We want to be a movie star or a pop star or a CEO or whatever. But those people often have the worst mental health because they're living in this weird fantasy world where everything's exaggerated and everything's that much more difficult and they're that much more anxious and paranoid and all of those things. And I sometimes think my parents who, just working class people who stayed together, had 2 children, lived in a house, went on holiday once a year, loved their kids, nice upbringing, all of that. You sometimes think those people are probably the most happy in life, don't you? Compared to, look at Taylor Swift and you're like, okay, that looks like an amazing life. But can you imagine the mental pressure that woman is under? Or Leo Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, to use a football example. So, yeah, my mental health's pretty good at the moment. And the one thing I would say that helps it the most is just having a nice routine. And I've been struggling recently, actually, because we go in our family from... So Shaylee works in education. We go from her being off over the summer with Enid to going back into work. And Enid is starting school. So lots of big changes triggering for me. And I keep saying to Shaylee, I want to get to the middle of September and I'll be super happy. But honestly, Matty, if an average day contained being with my daughter, being with my missus, the three of us being together, eating some nice food, doing some exercise, and doing something creative. I think if I tick at least 3/4 of those boxes every day, I'm sound and I'm happy. And going back to that kind of Taylor Swift, Cristiano Ronaldo analogy, I'm really, really lucky. I get to do really fun stuff on YouTube and with music. But you know, some of the most stressful times, like we went off and we played a theatre with That's So 90s at the weekend. And for 2 hours, I'm on stage and it looks like I'm having a brilliant time and I mustn't grumble. It's fantastic and people are up dancing and you're looking in their eyes and they're smiling and they're having a great time. And particularly with a 90s show, they're remembering times in their life and there's all of that side. But honestly, the most stressed I've been this week is that day because you've got to get your travel right. You've got to get your diet on point where you're traveling. You've got to go in and set up and loads of stuff could go wrong and stuff did go wrong. There was a big issue starting off the very start of the show and it's stressful and you're worried about your singing voice, you know, you're worried about your notes you're playing, is your equipment all, you know, going to work? And, you know, then you're going to get home late and you're going to be tired. And so I think sometimes the best thing just for mental health is just complete equilibrium, isn't it? Just nice, consistent, happy, calm. But we're thrill seekers, humans, aren't we? We want the highs. You know, we can't just go through life, you know, bosh, on a level like that. And just the one on emotions, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't want to ever overshare and burden people with your emotions. So there's a certain amount of self-awareness needed that you can't be. Do you know what? I'm a fan of Ric Flair, the wrestler, who is obviously a very messed up bloke, and he's just always crying. And you know, you kind of think, you know, Rick, calm down. I just want to see you do the walk thing and you know, do your styling and profiling rap. But you're like, man, stop crying. There's got to be a, you know, there's got to be a happy medium, hasn't there? So I think I've got it quite good with my missus because she can be emotional and then I'll send to her, and I can be emotional and then, you know, she'll send to me. Sometimes it gets me, you know, with my mum's illness that she's got, and you won't be thinking about it, and all of a sudden, pow, you are, for no reason whatsoever, very upset. And I think men should show emotion, but with anybody, read the room and don't overburden people, and you know, try and do it little and often rather than one big bah, you know, which I know we're all kind of tempted to do. But yeah, fascinating question, and yeah, please do share. It's difficult for me because on the one hand I'm there saying don't overshare, but would you believe people do share their struggles with me because I'm a removed person, and if, for example, someone was struggling and they didn't have someone to share with, but they're watching this bloke regularly on YouTube, they might just send me a comment. So on the one hand, I'm saying don't overshare and burden people with your emotions, but on the other hand, I am saying, look, if I was the difference between somebody really struggling and not, and all I had to do was reply to a comment, I need to reply to that comment and try and help. Obviously, I don't want to become someone's counselor or anything like that. But do you know what I mean? It's a really tricky topic. But I think we're in a better place as a society, actually acknowledging mental health, acknowledging men, acknowledging men's emotions. But let's be very honest about it. Male, female, whoever, whatever country, race, ethnicity, age, just got to be good to each other, listen to each other. If we all try and be the best person we can, we'll be heading in the right direction in terms of just life being very hard, isn't it? But there you go. It's all very deep on mental health. Thank you, Matty, for the question. James, dark horses for promotion is a common phrase, but can you give a couple of your dark horses for relegation? Has my answer changed after the first four games? Okay, let's be really cantankerous. Sheffield United, Ipswich, Wrexham and Southampton are the 4 teams that are in the bottom half. I absolutely would not have had in the bottom half at the start of the season. They're very, very dark horses. Maybe Blackburn, a dark horse. But whenever I say Blackburn are going to finish low in the table, they win 10 games in 12 or whatever and shoot up the table. And really anyone else down there, I don't think Derby will be down there. That's a bit of a surprise that they're 21st after 4. Anyone else down there is going to be a surprise if Oxford go or Wednesday. No. QPR, Hull, been down there. Charlton have been in League One. So maybe the dark horse, as ever, are hiding in plain sight in the top half of the table. Oh, this is great. Where do you think Akbol, my Blackburn, will finish? And do you think Sheffield United might not be top 6? Oh, God. Blackburn are so difficult to judge. I don't think they'll go down. No, they always seem to do all right, Blackburn. I actually think Big Val, the manager's quite good as well. So let's stick Blackburn somewhere in the middle. Maybe the third quartile, 12th to 18th. Do I think Sheffield United might not be top 6? No, they might not be top 6. I can see it now after this start. So yeah, two fudgy answers there. Duck Father. Duck Father, I don't know why that's tickled me. What would your advice be for any football creators out there that are trying to make quality content? Be enthusiastic. Love what you do and show that enthusiasm when you speak about it. You know, I think some people, they think that they can just stick the camera in front of them and just talk. But you've got to have something a bit more than that, because there's going to be someone else who just talks and they're going to be more analytical than you. There's going to be someone else that just talks. They're going to be more charismatic than you. But if you can be you in the most enthusiastic way possible, nobody can do that. Nobody can Benjamin Bloom, like as I refer to myself in the third person and annoy everybody, like me, can they? Well, I've got at least a few decades head start on everybody. So yeah, just be really enthusiastic. Be honest as well. Everyone's trying to find their angle. Or what do we need to make a video about? What do I need to say to get views and clicks? No, just be honest. Talk about what you love and talk about it with enthusiasm. John Parr. How many injuries will Leeds get in the international break from a Sunderland fan? I don't know the motivation behind that question, John Parr. Didn't John Parr sing, I climbed the highest mountain, across the wildest sea, I feel St. Elmo's fire burning in me. John Parr? I'm right about that, aren't I? I think I am. Well, hopefully Leeds won't get any injuries in the international break. But I think maybe what he's referring to is Leeds fans complaining about injuries in the international break in the run-in last season, possibly, or the season before. I don't recall. We don't want to see anyone get injured, regardless. This looks complicated. Richard Taverner, what would you choose if you had to choose between the following? A, 10 years of staying in the Championship, battling around the playoffs but losing in the playoffs or the final. B, 10 years of staying in the Championship, avoiding relegation on the last game or two. C, are you an Ipswich fan, Richard? C, 10 years of mid-table mediocrity, keeping a consistent manager and lineup. D, 10 years of yo-yoing between promotion and relegation and the constant changes in the team's manager and players that would go with it. What a great question. Because the answer is none of them are great, are they? But they all happen, don't they? 10 years of staying in the Championship, battling around the playoffs. Well, I don't think anyone's ever done 10 years. But God, Ipswich in the late 90s were that team, lost in the playoff final 4 times, or playoffs in the semis. 4 years they were in it in a row. But I tell you what, despite the heartbreak at the end of the season, played some great football. You probably can't do it now, can you? You can't build a team over 4 years. All your players get pilfered because of the chasms in money, don't they? You've got to move them on. 10 years staying in the Championship, avoiding relegation. I mean, that's kind of Birmingham, wasn't it? Under Trillion. Not fun. 10 years of mid-table mediocrity. That was Ipswich. under Mick McCarthy. Not fun. So I've got to go with D. It's got to be the yo-yoing because at least you get those promotion seasons. And I said, as an Ipswich fan, all I want supporting this team, one good season. And when I mean one good season, can you win? Win promotion. And it turned out from League One, we won promotion. It was brilliant. And then, lucky, they did it 2 years in a row. So, yeah, it's got to be 10. 10 years of yo-yoing. D, great question. Casey Marshall, what do you think of Norwich is years? I think that probably means to say, what do you think of Norwich this year? I like Norwich this year. I like the recruitment. I like the manager. But I think it might be a slow burn. But what is not going to be a slow burn is Josh Sargent. Because if he stays fit, he's going to get a ton of goals. So I'm pretty optimistic for you Norwich fans this year. Alan Pryor, could you see a World Cup every 2 years happening? FIFA seems to want it. It's all about the money. So there's this big battle at the moment, isn't there, for who is going to become the worldwide football brand leader and compete with the Premier League, essentially. So you've got this World Club Cup thing. They're trying to do that. You've got the actual World Cup. Even things like pre-season tours and whatever MLS are doing. I think it's what this is going to be over the next decades is going to be a battle between the Premier League and, let's be honest about it, in the end, it's going to become a worldwide game, isn't it? It's going to become a NFL type world tournament that's year on year that has 16 teams in it. And although the NFL, don't they do 6 months on, 6 months off, don't they? But yeah, I don't see how it can be shrunk to specific countries or continents. It's just going to end up that you have, I don't know, maybe you'll keep the Premier League and that'll be 6 months, but then the second 6 months of every year will be the World Playoffs, won't they? And it will be the leading team from England, Germany, Italy, Argentina, Brazil, Japan, wherever, China, USA, Saudi, Qatar, whatever. I'm only up to 10 countries, but maybe you need to get up to 32 countries, and then that will be the World Mega League, the Platinum Hyper Super Ultra Global Hyper League. I don't know. But yeah, it can't not become that. And, I still at my age, I still follow wrestling and WWE a bit on Netflix. And, they're now, you look at them, they now go to France and then to wherever, Canada. And in the end, they'll just cycle around the world each year. And, there's more opportunities worldwide than there is in a specific country. And that's where we're headed towards. Rinse Harry, am I a fan of the Foo Fighters? Yes. I think, what are the two nicest things I can say about the Foo Fighters? I think the Pretender, meet me in the dark, what if I say I'm not like the others, is probably the best straight out rock song of the, what was it, the noughties? Of the noughties. And go and check it out. Live, I'm a big AC/DC fan. Live lounge cover, Foo Fighters, Let There Be Rock. In the beginning! Is one of the best, I think it might be the best AC/DC cover I've ever heard, actually. Really, really good. So, yes. Sebi. Hiya, Ben. Who is your favourite Borough player in the last 10 years or so? Favourite Borough player in the last 10 years or so? Adama Traore, even though I sat there utterly terrified of watching him against Miles Kenlock, bless him, a young Ipswich left-back in the final game of the 17-18 season. Look at the size of that man. Tom, which current EFL, Championship EFL managers can you see managing the Premier League one day, even if they don't get promoted with their current side? Great question. Let's miss out Handsome Rob, because he's already done it. Ryan Mason, good start. Let's go with him. Lampard's already done it. Cifuentes, maybe. Might be there next season, mightn't he? Struber, Sheehan. Mousinho, that'd be a good one. I've been following Mousinho for a fair while, and he looks like he's got what it takes, doesn't he, over the long term. Chris Davies will probably think he'll get there with Birmingham. Heckingbottom's done it. Manning, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? I'm just listing all the managers here. Let's pick one. Do you know what? Let's go all in on John Mousinho. Really well spoken, really well liked. Was the PFA guy when he was at Oxford. He's done a really good job with Pompey, hasn't he? They're trending upwards. The next step for him is either Pompey doing well in the Championship, or Pompey fans won't like it, but a club higher up the ladder taking him, and then that could either be a Premier League club or lead to the Premier League. So yeah, let's go John Mousinho. John Hooper, God, best piece of advice you've ever been given. Nah, so many bits of great advice. One of them on parenting came from my mother, who, when I asked, talk to me about parenting, she said, well, you just do your best, don't you? And I'm like, well, that's a bit of a non-answer. And now as a parent, I understand that's the only answer. You cannot be perfect as a parent. Accept it. Accept it. Sit in the discomfort of not being able to be perfect and just do your best. God, in terms of other stuff, in terms of musical stuff, just listen to the audience. The audience will tell you exactly what they want. Your opinion is irrelevant. Just listen to the audience, and you can choose a song by somebody or write a song that you love. But if the audience don't care, you need to be humble enough to accept that song might be for you to listen to on your own, or you to play in your bedroom on your own, and that the audience will define everything. And connection to that audience is just the most important thing ever. If I do stuff that makes the audience here on YouTube not like me, or feel that I'm either patronizing, talking over their heads, or talking under their heads, you got to get it right, and you got to know what they want. And I've been told that numerous times. And I suppose in terms of like life stuff, when you're reading books and listening to podcasts, and I've heard many people say different versions of the same thing, but the success it's just not spectacular. Getting anything is not spectacular. When you see Iniesta score the winning goal for Spain in the World Cup final, us in the audience are seeing that one moment as this massive spectacular thing. But then you could do a swirling montage here where you roll back to probably 500,000 little things that Iniesta did from even like the age of 10. Practice, this lesson, that lesson, this game, this thing, all leading up to him being in that position in the World Cup final, and it being just nothing, just your average afternoon, isn't it? Because he's done it so many times. He's just there, touch, bosh, in the goal. Okay, the moment is massive because he's going to win Spain the World Cup, but it's not a spectacular thing. Oh, here I am in this big moment. No, it's just 3:40 p.m. in the afternoon on an average day, isn't it? And I think that's what you've got to try and make of things, haven't you? That, if your goal is whatever is a parenting goal, just be super consistent, just every single day. Just be good to your kid, talk to them, laugh with them, all of that. And then that moment where in 10 years time or whatever, you get the spectacular where they do something that you're so proud of and that's incredible. It's not actually in that moment. You've built that up. And even things like the YouTube stuff, it's, you get a video that does a lot of views and it feels like a great moment. It's not the moment on its own. It's everything that built up to it. So it's a long-winded way of a journey, not the destination type thing. And look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves, that type thing. Look after just boring. Just, set the lights up, sit straight, talk with enthusiasm every day, every single day, and the good stuff will hopefully come. What does that say? Dilks Joel, do you cosplay as Jesus? So a normal reaction to people and the Jesus stuff would be two of those, because it's like, come on, grow up, say what you see, Gareth. But I will actually say, when I was working in the behaviour school in Hayes on World Book Day, I did cosplay as Jesus. Tom, would you rather wear a skin-tight top with baggy trousers or a very loose top with skin-tight trousers? Oh, wow. So, at the moment, I'm wearing quite tight trousers and a pretty loose top. So maybe that's answered the question. But when we do the 90s show, I don't mind when we do the boy band stuff. I've got my combats on and a more tight top. So not that anyone wants to see me at my age doing that, but it is what it is. I'm happy with either, but we'll go tight trousers, baggy top. Great question. Gloves are off. Sweet science. Did Leeds do enough in the transfer window? Maybe one player short. If they've got Wilson or Harmer, as discussed with Connor and Matt on 3 at the Back, excellent new podcast you should check out on Connor McGilligan channel, then I would say they had done enough. Finney, do you hate Preston? If you'd seen my response to the... we did a really good clip, didn't we? How to get instantly blocked by me. I do not hate any football club in the world. What may happen, Finney? Let's lay this out. Let me ask you a question. Are you so emotionally and tribally attached to Preston that anybody who skews underneath being terribly enthusiastic, complimentary, and skews towards possibly reasonable criticism of Preston, are you so emotionally engaged in Preston that person triggers you to the point that you wrongly think that they hate Preston and you think that they have an issue in there with Preston when really you have an issue with Preston? Because if you love something too much, you won't be able to hear anybody say anything about them without thinking, oh, they hate them. There's a question back to you. But no, of course I don't. It's ridiculous. What I hate Preston. Do you think Middlesbrough can finish in the top 6? They're only Championship club to win first 4 matches. I do. I do think they can finish in the top 6. It would take several things to happen. Keep Hackney, keep the momentum, for the recruitment to work out, and maybe for 1 or 2 of the parachute teams to fail and maybe dip 70 points or lower. But no, I do think Borough can get in the top 6. Just got to keep it up. Vinyl SX, favourite music venue you've seen a gig at? Mine would be Camden Coco. Oh, great old theatre in Camden there. Seeing Natasha Bedingfield there was brilliant. I've seen a gig at... You're going to hate this answer. I love the O2. I've seen so many gigs that I've had a great time at the O2. And I don't know, just for me, that size arena, not too fond of stadium gigs. I like little gigs, but then the production at an arena is perfect. Maybe a big theatre, but it's a horrible answer you'll hate. I will say the O2. I've seen AC/DC at the O2 and it was perfect. Just brilliant. Elliot, how do you prepare for an Ipswich game as it's the team you support? As in, how do I prepare what to do? A watch along to cover them, to go and watch the game? How do I prepare? So the truth is now I can't watch an Ipswich game without, quote, working. So if I'm doing a watch along, I mean, look, I'm pretty dialed in on Ipswich, despite the 5-page thread about me on TWTD last week. Some people think I don't support Ipswich and I don't care about them and I should go to every single one of their games and I have no right to talk about them unless I do. But I've done fairly well, other than right there, to try and rise above some of that criticism and just drink in the lovely comments that were about me on that thread. But yeah, mental, 5 pages. So every Ipswich game does become work. So there is no, I just go to an Ipswich game and watch it and enjoy it. If I'm going to see them, the travel's actually quite difficult now with the A14 and with things being busier, the stadium's actually been full for the last few seasons. So, yeah, lots of prep logistically. But I think I'm across the opposition. And I'm across what Ipswich are doing from my Blue Monday stuff. So try my best to just enjoy it, get there nice and early, try and see people and not make it completely work. And if it's a watch along, just try and enjoy it. And it goes back to our neutrality conversation as well, doesn't it? That try and be balanced. But the problem is that nobody will believe whatever I say is balanced just because A, of whatever implicit stuff I'm bringing to it, and B, like Finney's comment there about Preston, whatever implicit stuff they are bringing to the situation as well. God, how many more? Right, we're nearly there. I'm going to rush through these last ones because I'm coming up. We've done an hour and a half already. My God, well done if you're still listening. Based on performance, Sheffield United are a C major 7, sharp 11 add 4. For you non-musicians there, that's a very complex jazz-sounding crunchy chord there. Borough are a C major 9, no 7. What chords would you assign to other clubs in the Championship? Okay, let's go nerdy on this. Sheffield Wednesday are D minor, the saddest of all keys. Charlton are a G power chord because, you know, they're just going to be pretty tough and pretty gritty. Norwich are a B7 sus 4. You're just waiting for them to resolve and get where they're going to go. What's another one? Ipswich are D major because whenever I sound check a piano, for some reason, I play a D major chord. And that is my go-to, and Ipswich are my go-to. And surely we've got to say something about Wrexham or Birmingham. Let's say about Wrexham. Wrexham are a C major chord. Some people don't like it because it's straightforward and to the point, but you can't deny it. There we go. Good question. Favourite goalkeepers of all time? JJ, BCFC. So I'm going to say a couple from the World Cups when I was growing up. Jose Chilavert, who played for Paraguay, and Jorge Campos, who was like 5'6" or 5'7" or something, who played for Mexico. I do think Trafford last season, that was the greatest Championship goalkeeping performance I've seen. And Richard Wright, the Ipswich keeper, who I absolutely loved in the George Burley team. Nicola, I can't talk. It's been a long Q&A. We're getting there. Any dark horses for you or glorious glow-ups and any oh no teams? Dark horse, let's go Portsmouth. They're up there in 8th at the moment. Glorious glow-ups. Who's had a glorious glow-up? West Brom seem to have got their recruitment right, haven't they? Any oh no teams? Ipswich 20th at the moment. If Ipswich finish 14th and stutter their way through the season, then they'll be the big oh no team. Matt, given how bad Russell Martin has started at Rangers, do you think he's being exposed as another hipster manager who's too stuck in his ways and tactics to achieve success, given how the end at Southampton and start at Rangers have gone? Always get asked about Russ Martin. Always defend him. It's not doing great for Rangers, and maybe that approach and personality type isn't the best fit for that club. But I would give a bit more respect, Matt. Hipster manager. I do think when somebody's been, 6-7 years in the job and been hired at MK and at Swansea and at Southampton and at Rangers, these are proper football clubs. They're more than a hipster manager, but yeah. Need some results on the pitch at Rangers to debunk that rather. Josh Sargent asks, do you think Josh Sargent is the best player in the EFL? I think he's the best goal scorer, isn't he? The best striker. Not sure he's the best player. I think there'll be a few in the parachute teams that pound for pound would be a better player. David Fratesi, are you starting to seriously consider Middlesbrough a top 4 or 5 push after keeping hold of Hayden Hackney and the very good recruitment? Yes, of course. How can you not? Started well. Things are going in the right direction. You would have to, right now, look, if they lose 8 games on the trot, you're going to change your mind. But right now, you'd have to, wouldn't you? Dave, given the comparisons made between Kone and Sir Les, could he make it to that level? I'm going to stop right there, Dave, because you're going to enjoy my conversation with Sam Parkin, who knows more about QPR, more about football, more about playing football, and more about scoring goals than I do. And he's going to talk about exactly that on the Championship Check-In podcast. Jack, what is my favourite football chant? I think it's often about the timing of football chants and the humour. So anything that just captures the moment exactly, and the fan base, and everyone just had a little moment in the stadium of we're all taking this a bit too seriously, and that was a little bit of a laugh. But I can't get past for just a general answer the Millwall thing. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's just so unique and so rousing when they do it, and it all starts crescendoing in volume and more people join in. And I don't know, there's something really committed about just yelling Mill for 20 seconds at a time whilst other people are doing it. Last one, Cash. It's early in the season, but what team's prediction do you think you got the most wrong? Oh, who did I have well down the league that's looking pretty good? I had Derby in the top 10 and they started badly. Oh, I had Sheffield United 3rd and they're 24th. So that's looking problematic. We'll have to adjust that one. And look, Middlesbrough are right up there and surprising everybody, aren't they? So, yeah, probably those few. Hopefully. We normally have panics and then it kind of rights itself a little bit as the season goes on. Guys, you are the best group of subscribers on YouTube. Brilliant questions each and every time. Not just getting the football debate going, but because we're on an international break and loads of topics to talk about. And I've got to say, and we've been getting praise for this, your questions that are a bit more human and a bit more personal, and me opening up a little bit, I struggle to do it, has been praised quite a lot. So do not stop. We'll call it there. We'll put some clips out and maybe get this out as a show on, I don't know, some point over the weekend. I'm travelling, so we need to do it all in advance. And we'll see you for the next one. Thank you so much. And usual message, if you got if you got to the end and you listened to every word I said, prove it to me by, should we have a keyword? What can my keyword? Type the word red pen in the comments. Just type the word red pen and I'll know you listened all the way to the end. Well done, you lot.